Hi, so today I'm going to be showing you how to make some large toppers for your cakes. So I've just got one here, which I'm going to show you how to make. Now you can make this in any shape, any size, and any kind of decorations. And I'm going to be showing you, first of all, how we actually get the template to a certain size.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is print our template. So again, as I mentioned, you can go ahead and print any number, any size. So I'm just going to print out number 1, and I'm just going to go to printable just to make sure it's printable. And then I'm just going to choose the number that I want. So I quite like the look of this one here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and save the image. I'm going to add it to my photos. Okay. This is now added to my photos. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to resize this. I'm going to go to File, Print, and this is going to come up here. So we want to keep it at custom. Now, here where it says aspect ratio, we're just going to go to 1:1. Make sure you do set it to 1:1. And I'm going to print it 6 inches high, and I'm going to go 2 inches wide. And then I'm just going to hit print, and I'm just going to go ahead and print that.
So I've printed out my paper and I've just cut that out. So I've just gone around it and I've cut that out. And this is 6 inches by 2 inches wide. Now, the all-important thing that we're going to be using here for the topper is something called foam core. Now, this is just a large sheet. It's just almost like a board, but inside the board, there's almost like some polystyrene here, which you can insert a bamboo stick to act as your stick to insert into the cake. Now, this you can buy from Amazon, and I'm going to link it for you. I use this a lot in my cake projects, and you can use it for so many different types of things. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to get my number 1 and I'm just going to go around it in a light colour. So I've just got like an edible pink pen here and I'm just going to go around it and just trace around the number 1. So I'm going to do that now. It doesn't need to be perfect, but just try and get it as neat as possible. Okay, perfect. So I've just got my number 1 there, which I'm now going to cut out. So I'm just going to bring in my cutting mat. So do make sure that you put something like a cutting mat down because otherwise you will end up scratching your table. Now, what I've got here is I've just got a craft knife. So just make sure it's a sharp craft knife. Just be very careful when you're using these. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start going around this and just cutting around it. And I'm not digging in too hard because otherwise it can risk tearing the foam core and you just get some jaggedy edges. So I'm just going very, very lightly. And do make sure that this is a very sharp blade, otherwise it's just not gonna cut properly. Okay, so I've just cut one side and I'm just going to make sure. So now I'm just going to go slightly deeper around it now that we've made the first initial cut. So I'm now almost going straight through it. Okay, and then I'm just going to turn it over. I'm just going to turn it back around and just make that a little bit deeper so I can see. And again, this does not need to be perfect because it is going to be covered in sugar paste. Okay, and then that will just break away. And if it doesn't break away that easily, you can just turn it around on the other side and just go through it on the other side. Okay, and it will just snap off like so, and you've got your number one there. I'm just going to take off any straggly bits on there. Okay, so what I'm going to be using for this is I've got this really nice floral mold, and I will link this for you, and it's got some different sizes, which is really, really good. We're just going to need some petal base. I've just got some piping gel. I've got a brush, so just a brush for the piping gel and a brush to paint. I've got some sugar paste, and today I'm going to be using, it's almost like a candy floss pink and an ivory. You can, of course, do any colours you like. I've got some Edible Arts Bright Gold. Now this is a non-toxic, non-edible gold, but because it's a topper, it can be removed, it's absolutely fine. And I've got some Rejuvenator Spirit here. And I've just got a large food stick here, which is just like a kebab stick. So that's what we're going to be using. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead now and just start cutting out the flowers. And I'm going to use probably one of the large ones to go in the center. And then I'm going to use the medium and then maybe a smaller one. So I'll probably use 3. And again, there's no kind of right or wrong answer here. It's just whatever you want the look of the topper to be. So first of all, I'm just going to grab my petal base, and I'm just going to put the petal base into the mold. Now, petal base just makes things a lot easier to remove. I'm actually going to use the larger one just to go in the center of the number one. And I'm going to get my first bit of sugar paste, and I'm just going to put that in there and just press down and just make sure that it's nice and flush. So try not to get any excess, push it down just so you can really get the pattern and the indents of the rose. Just open that up. I'm just going to add a little bit more there where it needs it. And I'm just going to remove that. And you just have a beautiful rose like that. And I'm just going to go ahead now and do that in different sizes. It's got a really small one here as well. So where we just need to fill in any gaps, and you can use like the really small ones. I'm going to start off with 10 of each colour, and then I can always do some more if I need to. Okay, so that's all our roses now cut out. I'm just going to put the sugar paste, just wrap it up in some cling film, otherwise you don't want to risk drying it out. just going to pop this down on some parchment. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to start attaching the flowers, and I'm just going to grab my piping gel. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, first of all, I've got one of the really large ones, and I'm just going to place that into the center. And then I'm just going to brush some piping gel onto this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start putting some of the smaller ones just around it. And make sure you have got enough piping gel, not too much where they just kind of slide off, but just enough. And then I'm going to go in with some of the medium ones and just alternating them between pink and white. Where you have kind of a really tiny gap there, you can just add one of the much smaller ones. And you can move this. So don't let the roses dry. You want them so you can actually squish them if you need to. Otherwise you can't move them around. So I'm just going to go in and do a few more now. And anyway, you've got some really small gaps now. We can just start to push these into the gaps just to make sure that they do fit. Okay, so we've added on the roses now, and there are a few tiny little gaps here. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to get some of these gold pearls, and we're just going to pop them into any gap. So just make sure that there is a little bit of sugar paste, just move them up with your brush just so they do sit. Otherwise the balls will just fall off. Put a bit of piping gel and just push them down. And again, I'm just gonna, with my brush, just spread out the sugar paste from the roses, and it's gonna get covered anyway, which is gonna look fine. So then we're just gonna push them down, and I'm just gonna do that anywhere where I want the gold balls to go. And they actually look really nice as well. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to break it up a little bit now. I'm just going to paint a couple of the ones in white in gold just to break it up, and I think it looks really, really nice. So I just had some in there yesterday from where I was decorating a cake, and the great thing about this dust is if you have some left over, just leave it in your cupcake case or your bowl or whatever, and it turns back into a dust because the alcohol evaporates. So it just means that you don't waste any of the luster or your gold dust, which is brilliant. And I'm just going to go ahead now. This might even be enough. Might not need to add any more to this. So just a thick consistency. We don't want it too runny. And again, if you can't use Rejuvenated Spirit, then use something like a lemon extract. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, where I think it would look nice, I'm just going to go ahead and just paint maybe some of the smaller ones just to break this up and just add that touch of gold to it. I don't want to add too much. I just think a few will look nice. Maybe do one more. Okay, and then because we don't want the side of the, I don't want to leave it white. It looks fine, but I think it looks better if we paint it in gold. And also I've just got a bit of the outer line of the pink where I cut it out from. So I'm just going to go ahead now and I'm just going to go and paint the sides. I'm just going to go ahead and paint the tops. Okay, now ideally you would want this to dry from the outside, but I'm just going to show you now inserting the stick. So we're just going to go ahead now and push that just into the stick and just start twisting it. And go about kind of halfway. And then chop off any excess. These can just break off, or you can get some little cutters. Going to go around this slightly where I can just see a bit of white. And there you have your beautiful #1 topper. And this is one I had made before, but I just want to go in and show you how nice this would look if you just were to paint it in all in gold. It would look absolutely stunning. And there you have the topper in gold and the floral topper in pink. and they just look absolutely stunning, especially if you're going to put either some artificial flowers around your cake or even some real sugar flowers. These look absolutely amazing. So I really hope you've enjoyed.